So if you look at the language that's in the ordinance, it's my legal opinion that although you may not like the proposed activity, and I'm not saying I don't disagree with you, but although you may not like the proposed activity, your existing county ordinance does not prohibit it at this time. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, but thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of my client.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes, sir.
Just so I understand, Chris, Ms. Banks, when I was talking with Sheriff Mock, is that in fact the issue under the Sheriff's Attorneys Association opinion, and is it also your opinion that because the event is being held outdoors, because the statute, the county ordinance itself is very specific in terms of events that occur indoors, so that's the loophole in your opinion?
I see it as twofold. One, yes, the ordinance very specifically indicates which types of venues must apply for the license, and they include indoors. They make a reference to booths, auditorium, and so on. So it would seem to me that if the event is being held in an area that doesn't fall within the criteria for the existing ordinance, then public decency statutes would apply. Whatever would be a violation of a public decency statute on a public beach would be how you would be looking to behavior of individuals at this function that takes place outside. The other perhaps more poignant point is that the ordinance just very specifically defines what constitutes nude entertainment, and very specifically defines what constitutes an adult entertainment establishment. And nude entertainment is entertainment that involves exposing or displaying specified anatomical areas. The ordinance very specifically defines those specified anatomical areas. And so if you have an individual who, albeit is dancing and removing their clothing, so long as they are not doing so to the extent that reveals a specified anatomical area, they're simply not in violation of your current ordinance. And if I need to use maybe, I'm thinking Speedo or bathing suit, something that you would see at the public beach. So long as they're not exposing these specified anatomical areas, they're just simply not in violation of your ordinance. So I understand how compelling this is for you all. And again, it makes me very nervous to stand up in front of this room full of people that I respect tremendously and make this argument. But there is a rule of law. There is a process. You have an existing ordinance in place, and the activity that's going to take place is not going to, so long as it does not violate any of the provisions in the statute about exposure of anatomical parts pursuant to this ordinance, is not something that the Sheriff's Department would have the ability to make an arrest for. Now, if I would fully expect and appreciate and hope that the Sheriff's Department and other law enforcement agencies will be highly visible and present on St. George Island. I did meet with my client and a representative from the Sheriff's Department, and my client understands that the Sheriff's Department will very likely have people in and out, and in fact, given the circumstances, I think would be grateful for that. But I think that you have some assurance that the Sheriff of Franklin County is going to do his job. And if someone violates the wording in the ordinance and exposes their buttocks, if you will, I would expect that person will be immediately arrested.
He will be.
And I would expect
Sheriff,
that to be the case. But I'm simply stating that you have an ordinance, the language is very clear and concise, and so long as an individual, a private business owner at a commercial venture, plans an activity, be it reprehensible to you or not, so long as that planned activity does not violate a provision that is provided for in the county ordinance, they've done nothing to break the law, and therefore there's no arrest that can be made by the Sheriff's Department. But if someone does expose an area, I would fully expect that individual to be arrested.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, you had to have a permit within 30 days to do this.
If you're going to do, if the activity that you are putting on falls within the categories defined in the ordinance, then yes, you are absolutely correct, sir. If you are proposing to do something that that is outlined in this particular ordinance, then yes, you must apply for a permit, and yes, you must apply at least 30 days in advance of the event. If you're not doing something that exposes a particular anatomical area, or in a private closed room, or in a closed auditorium area, then your activity does not fall within the purview of the county ordinance. Again, if this county commission wants to do what its heart and mind feels compelled to do, which is protect the public interest in Franklin County, if you want to do so and you want to do it successfully and properly, you will amend the existing ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one?
Yeah, hold on, I ain't through. I thought our permit, you had to have a permit to do any of this. I mean,
That's correct.
right, I thought we had a 30-day compliance with a thing, and they ain't even within 10 days, you know.
That's correct. The ordinance does require that a license be applied for at least 30 days before the event, and that is where the loophole, so to speak, has been found, and because they've moved the event outdoors instead of indoors. Sheriff, is that what your attorney's telling you? That's one thing I want to get clear.
Well, I'm
'cause I need to get clear in my mind what
Yeah, I
the
need to
sheriff's
get it, because they're
attorney's.
supposed to have a permit, now they don't have a permit, but they moved it from inside to outside.
And saying they
That's what
don't
I'm
have
trying
to
to
have
get
a permit
clarified
because
on the
it's
outside.
inside.
what the Sheriff's Attorney Association, the Sheriff's Association attorney is saying is the problem. I'm trying to identify the problem so that when the ordinance is amended, we remove and close the loophole. So is that what your association?
I'm not sure that's I'm not sure that's the only loophole, but that's something that I'm sure that, it's Mike Stevenson's who
I can talk to him and-
Absolutely.
Okay.
Brad Seeger, Captain Brad Seeger is back there. I'd like to hear what he's got to
And Mr.
say.
Chairman, did you have another?
That was it, I just thought they had to have a permit, so they found out they had the permit inside, so they moved it outside.
That appears to be the case.
So that's limited in the ordinance, that if you have an event inside, I mean, is that stated in the ordinance? Or does it say if you're having an event?
The ordinance makes reference to defined locations. All the definitions are inside commercial establishments.
Okay.
It doesn't make reference to outdoor events. And from what I'm hearing today, that seems to be one of the problems, is because the ordinance is not specific as to outdoor events. That's the interpretation given by the Sheriff's Association attorney.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Can entertainment like this be prohibited? Do we have the authority in the ordinance to prohibit it?
No, there's a actual federal constitutional protection that's provided under the First Amendment for certain expressions of art, so to speak, but we can certainly regulate it, and that's what was done in our ordinance 20-plus years ago, and what I'm finding in some of the other county ordinances that I have seen. They don't ban the activity simply because you can't have an outright ban, but they do regulate it. You can ban nudity, of course, but you can't ban the artistic expression of dance or things of that nature, but you can regulate it in such a fashion that you cut down on these problem areas, and hopefully you filter out the problems, and you only are remaining with true expressions of art that people will not find
Question.
offensive.
Yes, sir.
So you're telling me that people have certain federal protections?
That's what's built into our ordinance, as well as the other county ordinances that I have gotten my hands on. And granted, I just started last week. I can't represent to you. I've read 67 county ordinances. I've only looked at a couple of them. But generally speaking, what you do is you ban nudity, you ban service of food and beverage, you restrict the areas where they are going to have these events. You can make them have a stage that's elevated and away from the public. You can require them to have chairs. All those things are built into your current ordinance for indoor activities. You can, I believe, amend that ordinance to include those restrictions on outdoor activities. But again, from what I'm hearing, the loophole is there's no prohibition on outdoor events. So
And one more question, I just want to kind of get my opinion out here real quick about where we're going with protecting people's rights and everything else. I'm not in favor of what's going on. I'm sure my mother isn't, which has now been deceased a number of years, and I think everybody here pretty much knows her
Yes, ma'am.
and knows the values that I was raised with, no doubt about that. But when you start infringing and not complying with federal law, I just want to caution the board as to how far we go when you start doing that, because you're going to cost these taxpayers a lot of money when you start infringing on federally protected rights. It could be very costly to this board to try to rectify this thing. So I want to make sure that the board is aware of that, and when steps are taken, make sure that we're looking in the best interest of the taxpayers. I know most every one of these pastors here, I know them. I know every one of them knows my mama and the way I was raised. So let's get that out there and make sure we're aware of all that. But, you know, I also sitting here, we have a duty to protect people's rights, and it's dictated by federal law. So I don't want to get into discriminating against people's rights, because you're going to lose. You're going to cost these taxpayers in this county a lot of money. I do believe that the ordinance needs to be tightened up. I've never read the ordinance, so I'm relying on the county attorney here and the sheriff and others that are in the law enforcement business and our legal advice here. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows where I stand on this issue.
In case of that, we could have a revival that same day where we're with them. Go in there, shut them down with a revival.
Chairman Massey, could I be recognized for just one
Yes, ma'am.
additional comment? I do want to express to the board that my clients are two gentlemen who relocated. They live on St. George Island. They own and operate two businesses. I think they do so very respectfully. They employ quite a few people. And they both are, in all of my conversations with them, two respectable, dignified gentlemen. The event was not originally planned for indoors. It was planned for outdoors. And it was, they have already contracted and paid deposits with this entertainment firm. And I know that things are getting better tourism industry-wise in Franklin County in December and in January and in February. But these businesses on St. George Island, such as my clients, rely very heavily on the revenues that they generate, and particularly on these busy weekends, such as the Chili Cook-Off weekend on St. George Island. So I believe that if they had had any indication of the dissatisfaction or discontent, if you will, with the proposed function, I don't think that they would have booked it. But at this point, they have booked it, and they've done so based upon an understanding that it would not violate or trigger any of the parameters within your existing ordinance. So I would, not asking you to set your conscience aside, because I'm sure you obviously have very strong feelings about the content of the venue, but I would ask you to please understand that there's no nefarious plan. In order, these individuals hired an entertainment company to do something that hopefully will generate a good deal of revenue for their business and allow them to sustain their business operations on St. George. Thank you.
They got a law against dirty dance?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Knight.
Yeah.
They have a law against dirty dance.
I want to pass this to the commissioners because this is the flyer that they're passing around. And the man I saw in there doesn't have a Speedo on underneath that towel. And
Scott, Nate, put your name for record.
Scott Shiver, youth pastor, East Point Church of God. Like I said, just take a look yourself. It sounds like false advertisement to me, because, if he drops the towel, I wouldn't want to see what was under there, because that's not the way you would dress on the beach. You guys have a job to do, and your attorneys and your sheriff has pretty much told you what you're faced with. And you're basically looking at after Saturday. That's what you're looking at. And so you have to do what you have to do within the legal guidelines of the law. As Christy just pointed out, this is all about revenue. I think they're going to find out that it's not going to matter whether he's booked it or not. He's still going to lose money worse than he's ever lost money in his life, because we, the citizens of Franklin County, have also the right to protest this, and we will be out there on Saturday in full force protesting this, as we have been given a right as citizens of the United States. So he's lost money anyway. He might as well just go ahead and write that off on his taxes, because he's lost it, because we will be there and we'll be doing what we can do legally within the law. And so, you do what you have to do and don't feel guilty about that, but we won't feel guilty about what we will be doing on Saturday when this goes on. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Joyce Estes, owner of a business on St. George. I appreciate all of the legal terms. I wish that you had addressed this last year when the pole dancers came up for consideration. So I'm asking you, begging you to, right now, start on this ordinance. We don't want the sheriff, we
We're
don't
fixing
want
to take
anybody
care
to
of
get
it.
in trouble. But at the same time, the people that we are attracting to the island are not necessarily those that we really do need. We've lost the clientele that had the higher standards. And now we are going down instead of up. I've got businesses closed all around me. It's been very difficult. I'm in the hole big time this year because of the clientele that we are bringing to the island. And it needs to be addressed by the tourist development as well as this county commission. I also represent, and if everybody would stand up, that Prayer Awakening, those that are involved with Prayer Awakening, we saw the problems that the school was having, and we went out and did a prayer walk, and I think maybe we might do one on this grounds. But we are working and hopefully working with the school board to bring in people that can help with the issues of all these problems that we're having with discipline and things that are happening in our school and in our community. So we just ask you to back us up and let us know where we can help you in doing whatever you need done in making things happen for the best of the county and not just letting. We need ordinances. We need things that will stop this kind of thing. We also need to bring more wonderful entertainment in rather than beer drinking and drunkenness and lewdness. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, Scott.
Scotty Lawley, pastor of Living Waters Assembly of God here in Apalachicola. My concern, outside of my personal things and the office that I hold and the Lord Jesus Christ that I represent, is that we are suggesting to our children, why do you need to go to school? Why do you need to have an education when you can get up on a stage and take the body that God so graciously give you and flaunt it and use it and sell it in order to make a living? We are saying that it's okay, and I understand. I'm not saying you guys, but
No, I'm not.
Right. But when we do this, we say, you know, if I don't stand up and oppose, I'm saying to my 15-year-old daughter, you don't need to go to school. You don't need to further your education. Just go to St. George Island. Go to Panama City Beach. Go somewhere and find you a stage to get up on and expose yourself, because sex sells. And whether you got on a Speedo or whatever, I can tell you, if you see me at the beach, it's not going to be the same thing that these guys are going to be wearing on Saturday night. And so, you know, I think that we're sending a message, communicating a message to our children that is wrong, and that we don't. I mean, we believe in our children. We want them to be highly educated and to go on and do prominent things in life. And so with that, I would ask this: is it possible that we could approve an emergency memorandum here prohibiting this until such ordinance could be addressed?
And a moratorium?
Moratorium, I'm sorry, yes.
No, sir, I don't think so. What we've got is an existing ordinance that we have to follow, just as the sheriff has to follow, until it is amended. There's no basis that I'm aware of that we can simply stop these activities, because the ordinance regulates, or excuse me, it doesn't regulate, it prohibits public nudity, and then it otherwise regulates the venues in which they can conduct these activities. The problem, as we've heard this morning, is that the ordinance apparently doesn't apply to outdoor venues.
Yes, sir.
Apparently that was just not on the radar screen years ago. That's what the Sheriff's Association attorneys looked at, apparently among other things, wherever the sheriff has got off to. So I'll need to talk to their attorney about the loophole I'm aware of and what
Yes,
other
sir.
issues
Okay.
are out there, and then let's close them down. But I'm not aware of any basis where we can
Okay.
simply countermand the sheriff and say, all right, go forth and shut this down. I'm not,
But
not without being in legal jeopardy.
I understand, and I respect that. I was just wondering if there was that possibility to to have
No,
something.
sir, I don't think so. I wouldn't recommend that the board put itself or the public treasury in that type of risk.
Yes, sir.
But,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, but the public nudity part still applies.
Absolutely.
Regardless whether it's inside or outside.
That's correct.
And that's the question I was trying to pose to Sheriff Mock a while ago, is will he have people there? Because this public nudity is going to apply whether it's inside or outside.
Correct.
And I believe that we need representation there via the sheriff to make sure that part of that ordinance that can be enforced is enforced.
Well,
And I
that-
think he's pretty much said that's what he would do.
And then there's also,
That part of it we can enforce.
Why not put it back inside and it wouldn't be as dangerous?
I don't think we have an option.
well, we don't
They
have an
can't put
ordinance
it
at
back
this point
inside
that
because they
allows
don't
us to
comply
do it.
with the ordinance.
Now, one other thing that the public needs to be aware of, in your current ordinance, and I think would apply in this case, is there's a prohibition that if there's like an entry fee or something, then they can't take dollar bills and pay those dancers directly under this ordinance. There's a specific prohibition of that. So that's something else that the
You
sheriff.
feel like
There's a
that?
bunch of prohibitions in there.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. So that I think, of course, that's in the hands of the sheriff, but that's my reading of it.
This place fenced in?
I have no idea. I don't know a thing in the world about the venue.
The venue will, I guess, I assume will be happening on private property and not on our county right away?
Oh, it better stay on private property.
Is it gonna be on fenced-in area?
Yes, sir.
Are they gonna take money, y'all gonna have them put money into their little clips?
The process of this,
Come up front right here.
my name is John Cadrell, I'm the actual owner of the Black Marlin. The process through the company that we are hiring is a professional company that deals with enforcing codes, laws, and rules and regulations through many counties outside of Franklin as well. So they know the county ordinance. I have sent them a copy of the regulations. They are aware of these meetings taking place. So an ordinance of as far as tipping goes, most of them will be thrown on a stage because they are going to be set up 3.5, 4 feet higher than the public with security guards standing at the front entry to make sure women or anybody doesn't try to jump up and remove any garments dancing. And as well, tipping will be able to be put on the sides of a hip on that, but as far as putting their hands down into a personal area, that's not allowed.
It says none.
Does our ordinance don't
none.
it says no tipping?
Well, no,
It's a-
the ordinance says you can't hand them.
You can't
because
put
this
it
is an
in
issue
the-
for
Okay, where's it at? 'Cause, yeah.
It's right here. It's right here. It says audience members are not allowed to pay directly or indirectly any tip or compensation to any of the performers.
Yep, so again,
It
that.
says it.
All right, it's paragraph 5, section C.
But they're gonna
that's-
find any kind of loopholes they can to get in here, y'all. Or what we're just gonna have to do is, I can't,
Can I say something?
no, because I have the floor right now, and then you can have it, okay? The thing about it is, it's some, I think Christie just said, put your, conscience aside and look at what is best and the rights and stuff. It's artistic rights. It's not money. You see what I'm saying? What Michael was talking about, what Mr. Schuler was talking about was the federal law says, you've got the ability to express your artistic behaviors and stuff. But it did not talk about and be compensated with money. These people are making money off of this. This is the thing. So, if I was a business, and this is just my personal thing, and I have a right to my personal feelings, but if I was a business and I came into Franklin County and I depend on the people of Franklin County to support my businesses, I would not do something that they would know that would be contrary to what the folks that I have to depend on in them winter months to support me may be against. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. We all a family here in Franklin County, and we all want to be inclusive. You're welcome to it too, but we all want to be inclusive in it. And this is something the people like to take the kids to the chili cook-off. I can tell you, the chili cook-off, if it's going to be tarnished with this, and I have to say, you're not going to have the people coming out like you normally do. And I I just think, you know, come here, be part of our family, but understand who we are. We are God-fearing, God-fearing, Bible-toting people. And that's the way, no disrespect to any religion or anything, but that's who we are. You're in the middle of the so-called Bible Belt when you're in this area. You're in the middle of it. And that's what people believe in. They believe in higher standards. They believe, we don't have this kind of stuff that happens in Franklin County. Now, I can see if your business is down and you want to see it up, but find some other way that would be complimentary of the community, not contrary to the community. So, I mean, that's just my opinion.
See, this one, then the one down the street from me, now they want to do pole dancing here in a few days.
Right. The intent of this was never to get as far as we've gotten with it today. If I knew it would be to this extent, we would have never have done this. I did ask a lot of the locals and my clients what they thought about this, and a lot of them even suggested it to me that as long as it's something clean. Now, keep in mind, this is a establishment that you have to be 21 years of age or older to get into anyway, so it's not something that is going to be out in the public. Again, it's an adult bar that you have to be of age to get in anyway. This kind of function obviously would not be happening outside of something that you would have to be of age to enter into this establishment.
Yeah.
Going forward, we will never do this again, I guarantee you that, because I don't want to offend most or all of any of the county or cities, officials, people. I'm not that way. I was born and raised. I went to a private Catholic school. I graduated from a private Catholic school. My mother forced us to abide God's law as well as everybody else in this. And I do. I pray every day. I donate to these churches. We donate to the fire department. We do our best to provide the community and county with as much as we can that our business will sustain. Again, this was just a function that was brought up to try to help generate more money for us to be able to help Jay Abbott with the fire department. And this is something that didn't really even start with us. It started with the own clients and the customers that would come in and suggest this. And we entertained the notion after being approached by a lot of the people.
Well, you got them clients and you got the church clients, that's a whole
Yeah, I mean,
different-
everybody's not going to, everybody has their own belief. We do too. And, again, it wasn't the intent to offend anybody.
Well, and I know that. And let me ask you something. What, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, what, I got it right here. What is the thoughts of the Chili Cook-Off Board and the Jay Abbott with the fire department?
I did speak with him. When I spoke with him, he asked me, the first thing he asked is, did I pull the ordinances of what we can and can't do? And I said, just before we even did anything, that was the first thing we did. He said, there's a lot of things that go on in these communities that people do not like. He says, but if you're following the laws and rules and regulations abided by the counties and commissioners and the codes, from a business standpoint, you have the right to deem what you feel need to progress your business. He says, but you can't break any laws. He said he himself personally said he is for it because it helps generate more money for him. Again, it's going to be an establishment that it has to be 21 years of age anyway. It's not like kids can actually come in anyhow. So it would be to the discretion of an adult to determine whether they do or do not want to come.
Well,
Jay Abbott told you he was for it?
He was not against it. He was not for it. He said if that's what we chose to do, then that was our option.
Well, you say they're gonna be up on the stage.
Yes, sir.
A kid don't have to come in. I mean, you can be walking by.
Well, I'm not sure if you've seen our location. It butts up
haven't.
against the bay side. There are a 12-foot fence on either end with pine trees that are as high as 20 feet tall. The property around it is a private property that we currently own that will be parking area. We actually went above and beyond to cover the back end of the stage 12 feet high, so coming across the bridge or in the water, which it will be nighttime, so it's probably going to be hard to see anyway. So we have enclosed the entire back end off so nobody can see in or around unless you're in the actual venue itself.
Sweet Jesus.
Did I speak to this?
Yes,
Demo
sir.
Patriotis. I'm a husband, a father, pastor of a church that's been here for 178 years. I'm speaking on behalf of my congregation, not just my personal opinion on this. And this is offensive, okay, to that community of faith that's been part of this community. I ask, okay, it sounds like from a legal perspective, you're saying there's nothing to prohibit this activity, at least this activity. So what can we do to speak to future events? Okay, as a county and as the residents, as the business owners, as representatives of different organizations. I'm looking up there, it says, "In God We trust." We open this event with, we open this meeting with prayer. We pray allegiance to a nation under God, yet do our activities speak louder than our words? Okay, and I hear everyone personally saying how they feel this isn't consistent with the values of Franklin County. And so I think this opens up an opportunity for us to come together. This isn't a problem, this is an opportunity. And it's an opportunity to speak to what do we say? Who are we as the residents of Franklin County, as commissioners, as public servants, as law enforcement, as business owners, as pastors, all the different hats that we wear, and come together in agreement, because we feel the tension and we feel the division and the conflict that's in this room right now because things aren't consistent. We have an inconsistency going on right here, right now. And so I just, bring that up, that this is an opportunity for us to come together. When I read, my wife showed me the article, the Facebook advertisement, and she said she was offended by that, now personally. But, I also read the text. These models, these hot male models, will be performing your personal fantasies live on stage. Okay? It's interesting, and I'm not going to preach to you, but last night I had a young person submit to me an essay on cultural identity for me to edit to turn into school. And this 13-year-old person reflected how pornography and lust was their biggest challenge that caused them to feel shame and indecent inside because it was inconsistent with their identity. We've got a cultural identity problem going on here today. And it may not be nudity, okay? But if it's pornographic, it's going to be offensive to our spirits. I heard my brother right here talk about the sanctity of sexuality, and who are we attracting to Franklin County when we're going to become a sexual tourist destination area? I mean, we've got some issues here. Sexual trafficking is a huge problem. Over 250,000 people in the United States are in sexual trafficking and slavery. Okay, addictions. You want to talk about economics? The cost of sexual addiction in broken families, declined productivity on the job, and I can go on and on. I've been to seminars, I've been to workshops dealing with sexual trafficking, dealing with pornography, dealing with the economic costs of these addictions and what they spin out, not just into young people, but also into adults. Now, I can't go into this on detail, but you want to talk about what fractures families here in Franklin County? We're about to allow the devil in the door. All right? And if we can't say no to him today, we better be able to say no to him tomorrow. Thank you.